Hi, welcome to segment 11 of Plato is Still Relevant, an annotated summary of Plato's Republic. The next two segments will cover Book 5, which seem like they're a kind of an aside, but if you read them carefully and closely, Socrates, Plato get at the difference between the lover of the best, the aristocratic man, who is this fellow here, where wisdom, the wisdom or the deliberative or the thinking part of the soul controls the courage or the spirited part of the soul to cultivate healthy desires. What is the difference in nature between the aristocratic man and the timocratic man who allows courage or the spirited part, the military man, if you will? The man who loves victory, honor, power. What differentiates him from the aristocratic man? Also, in segment 4, in segment, the last part, segment 10, I did say that the wisdom, courage, and desire looks a lot like Freud's superego, ego, and id, and I told you I would discuss what the difference was, and I missed that on the last episode. I want to say, looky here. Wisdom is an attempt, and we'll get back to this, is an attempt to grasp the form. What is justice in its ideal sense? Freud's superego is what society teaches the ego what justice is. There's a huge difference. This we might not be able to define humanly, but we continue to search for it. This becomes finite. The superego obeys the ego to control the instincts. Here is a quest for wisdom wherein courage follows to help cultivate the desires to continue to pursue that quest for wisdom and the best. There's a huge difference there. As Carl Jung said, if Freud wants to call the superego God, he ought to call it God, but Freud was not a believer. That's another, another whole course. So here we are, Book 5. Socrates argues there's one form of excellence, and that's the aristocratic man. As I said before, the person who has wisdom in control, courage follows wisdom to cultivate desires. By the way, this is our soul. And he's just about to get into this when Polemarchus, Adeimantus, Glaucon stand up and say, wait a minute, Socrates, hold on here. Just a few minutes ago, you said the things of friends in common. You started talking about sharing wives and children. You know, you're dissolving the family. And we think that how you bring up children and how the family structure is set up is very important to our city. Socrates goes, yes, but look, this is a hornet's nest. This family custom thing, I don't want to break into it because everybody's going to yell and fuss. And look, says Socrates, when a man moves as I do, searchingly, doubtfully, like I don't know what good is. I don't know what justice is. We're in this hunt together. This is how I move. And when a guy moves like I do, it's slippery. And I don't want to fall and drag my friends down with you. Well, everybody except Thrasymachus. Thrasymachus, who, of course, doesn't like Socrates at all. Everybody says, look, Socrates, we'll forgive you if you drag us down. It will be fine. All right, Socrates says something very revolutionary for the time period, 360, 380 BC. We want men and women to be doing the same work. We want them to have the same training. We want to share wives, and we want to share in the upbringing of children. And of course, all the young men start cackling, because this really goes against custom. And they said, oh, goodness gracious, the funniest thing will be to see all the women exercising naked. Yeah. See, in ancient Greece, nudity was quite common, and gym, think we all can identify with gym class, and we all feel funny getting into the gym suit. In ancient Greece, they exercised naked. And these men, there was a tendency for these men, even the great warrior Achilles, to be bisexual. And the men exercised together and liked each other. You know, the older men liked little boys. It was a different time and a different place. And they're laughing at the idea of women exercising naked and how they'll bounce and jiggle around. And they're all going on about this, and Socrates is like, hold on, people, hold on. First of all, when we all started exercising naked, us men, we laughed until we got used to it and better parts of reason took over. And let's not wrangle about this. Let's not be like Republicans and Democrats. I want my way. No, I want my way. Let's practice the dialectic. Let's have two lovers pursuing the truth. So, one, we want everybody to do what they're naturally fit to do. And they know what they're naturally fit to do because they love it. They're passionate about it. Okay, there's no pursuit connected with governing a city that's particular to a man or a woman. I mean, look, just take one example from nature, the queen bee. And there's lots of examples in nature where the women rule. As a matter of fact, women ruling might be more in sync with nature than our custom of having men rule. And Socrates goes, see, you see what I mean? I mean, we want to give women the same training as men, so part of that will be physical training and gymnastics, or as we'd say today, gym class. But to make my argument easier, let me act like a lazy person and pretend I've got what I want already without planning how to work for it and working for it. Let's just say that we have common wives and children. Now remember, the man, the wisdom, courage, and desires in order as the aristocratic man. The aristocratic city has the philosopher kings ruling the auxiliary or the military and the police to cultivate the mob in a healthy way. So you've got this rulers who are the small percentage of the population trying to control the bigger part of the population. But let's just say we have common wives and children. He's only talking about this segment of the population. He understands these people will not be self-motivated. The mob people, the mob mentality, the mob spirit needs money to motivate it. It's motivated by money and rewards, what have you. So he goes, look, our guardians have shared women, shared wives, sharing in the upbringing of people. We'll just say sex is forbidden. All right? And we'll arrange what we'll call sacred marriages. But what I mean by sacred is beneficial. And let me be honest. Let's breed people. Now look, how do you get a good racehorse? You breed it. Some years ago, I know the Bill Cosby show, this might have been the 70s, 80s, I think it was the 1980s. The Bill Cosby show was popular, and the Monday Night Football moved from Dandy Don Meredith, Howard Cosell, and Frank Gifford, and Jimmy the Greek had a job there for a little while. And one Monday night, Jimmy the Greek said, well, the reason African American athletes are superior was because during the slave era, they were bred to be bigger and stronger. Oh, there was a huge uproar, of course, and, it was racial prejudice, and Jimmy the Greek was no longer on Monday Night Football. But the next day, Bill Cosby came out, and he said he's absolutely right. And, our forefathers, treated the slaves like they did their animals. They bred the biggest, strongest male with the biggest, strongest female. That way they'd get the biggest, strongest workers. It sounds harsh. It sounds Hitler-esque. But if you start to think about it, he might be onto something. If it works with horses, if it works with dogs, why wouldn't it work with people? I know it hurts our sensibilities, but please remember, this is a different time and place. And Socrates says, we're going to use lies and deceit as medicine. Remember, he said the ruling class could use lies as medicine to control the masses. So we'll make sure people have their births at the right time in their life when they're healthiest, at the right time of year that is in sync with nature. We'll let old people have babies, but their offspring will be tossed. Everything is good that keeps with the city as a whole. And one of the most important things is that we have good, strong, healthy people. And really, breeding is one of the ways we can do it. And we've got to avoid individualism. I mean, individualism unbinds a city. Think of a team. The team is more important than any individual. Then you go play Little League Baseball, for instance, and the coach's son pitches every third day and plays shortstop when he ain't pitching, and the coach's son sucks. The coach's son is not a good ball player. Yet he plays. Why? Dad's coach. Dad doesn't care about the team as a whole. He only cares about his son, his family. And here's what Socrates is getting at. We want our city to be as a whole. You know, if you're pounding a nail, you miss the nail and hit your thumb, your whole body stops, your brain, your other hand holds the thumb. You focus on making that thumb better. He wants one child to be hit by, say, a horse in the street. He wants the whole city to stop and be concerned about that child. If we have common wives and common children, all the children of this generation I will think of as my child. And all the children will look to all the adults as if they are their parents. We'll have one city. None of this mine and thine. And we start with the guardians. Everything is accomplished by common family. We want the guardians to have the good of the city. So they're not saying mine. They don't have possessions. There's no dragging stuff home. None of this my wife, my child. They'll possess everything in common. Hence there won't be lawsuits amongst the rich. And the guardians, or there won't be people flattering the rich. You know, Elizabeth Warren wrote a book here today, in this time period, 2014, and she said, I don't think our Congress in this country or our Senate is divided as much as you hit this brick wall of personal interest groups. What are they? I can't think of the term. People who invest money into a guy's campaign, the guy then, special interest groups. The guy then owes the special interest group his vote. In other words, Socrates said the guardians don't have money, don't want money. They're given just what they need, not too much, not too little. They're brought up common wives, common children, so they don't say I and mine. So there's none of this bribery going on. Bribery will bring the city down. It will destroy the culture. And right now, one might suspect, due to special interest groups, that our culture is falling down. Telling me Plato isn't relevant today. So we've got these guardians living a great life. I mean, they'll be like Olympic victors. The commonality, though, will only be achieved with common wives and common children. Then we'll take our hardier kids out, we'll have them watch combat. And those that shy away, well, they can become part of the mob. They can be the money makers, the shoemakers, and so forth, and so on. We want the best and the strongest, our warrior group, and from this warrior group, we'll find our aristocratic man. Okay. Glaucon then says, wait a minute. How is this regime going to be possible? Socrates falls back and says, remember, Glaucon, we're not trying to make a city. We're just trying to find justice. And we've got to make an ideal city. I mean, isn't it the nature of practice to capture less than theory? You can come up with a tremendous theory, but never achieve it in practice. It'll always fall short. the mind somehow is superior to the senses. And we are after what the mind sees here. I mean, if a guy, for instance, could sculpt, made a sculpture of a man or a woman that was so beautiful that you couldn't take your eyes off of it, even though that man or woman doesn't exist in the world anywhere, would you call him a bad sculptor? Of course not. I'm trying to come as close as I can to the ideal city and the ideal human so that I can explain what justice is. So I can make clear that justice is every part being in the right place. And this is what we're doing here. I'm hunting for the ideal. All right, Socrates, says Glaucon, I'm satisfied. Socrates says we need one change. One change for all governments and all people to be better. Philosophers must become kings. And until philosophy and politics coincide, there will be no evil, no end to the evils. I know this is contrary to public opinion, but nothing else will bring happiness to a city or to an individual than if wisdom rules the individual, that is a lover of wisdom, a philosopher, or philosophers become kings. Glaucon says, Socrates, you've just said something that will make the majority of people want to kill you. It's interesting to note that later in Socrates' career, he is killed by the mob. Thank you for listening. Please make Socrates a part of your daily life. Thank you very much.